The main gate of the prison slammed shut with a sharp clang that echoed through the yard, like the strike of a hammer sealing someone's fate. The air reeked of iron, sweat, and damp concrete, mingling with the low murmurs of inmates watching every new movement. Here there were no judges, no lawyers, no second chances. The only law was simple and brutal. Either you commanded respect or you were crushed. The guards patrolled like well-fed predators, not because they wanted to stop the chaos, but because chaos was part of the spectacle. To them, fights weren't tragedies. They were distractions that kept the population in check. Every narrow corridor and every shadow cast against the walls told stories of defeat, revenge, and broken alliances. And for anyone just arriving, a single glance was enough to understand there was no room for the weak. The metallic scrape of bars opening cut through the air like a warning. All eyes turned to the gate, and from it emerged a figure who carried a silence more threatening than any shout. The new inmate walked with measured steps, neither fast nor slow, but with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Her eyes swept across the yard, scanning faces, measuring distances, assessing threats. Her orange uniform was spotless, but that wasn't what caught attention. It was her posture, upright, firm, as if she wasn't a newcomer, but someone who already knew every unspoken rule of this hostile territory. The murmurs among the inmates grew, mixing curiosity with hostility. Some smirked with malice, others frowned, as if sensing that this woman wasn't like the others who had passed through here. From the corner, a veteran whispered to another, "If she's smart, she'll keep her head down. But something tells me she's not the type to bow." Up on the yard's ledge, leaning against a rusted guardrail, stood the man who ruled that block like an iron tyrant. Broad shoulders, muscles carved by violence, and scars that told of battles no one dared to question. His nickname echoed through the corridors, King of the North Wing. When he saw her walk in, a crooked smile slowly formed at the corner of his mouth, not out of pleasure, but like a predator eyeing new prey to break. He stood with deliberate calm, his footsteps echoing on the concrete, each one making the air feel heavier. The inmates cleared a path, not out of respect for the newcomer, but out of fear for the man approaching. He stopped just inches from her, letting his shadow swallow her whole. His eyes scanned her from head to toe, not with desire, but with the arrogant certainty that anyone would yield before him. "Welcome to my territory," he said in a low, gravelly voice, dragging out the words as if savoring the threat. "Here, I'm the one in charge." A heavy silence fell over the yard. It was the kind of moment where any answer could decide who would survive until the end of the day. The air felt charged, like before a storm. A few inmates stepped closer to watch, forming a silent circle around the two. Their eyes were a mix of anticipation and anxiety, as if they were about to witness something that would be etched into prison memory. The newcomer stood her ground. Her gaze didn't waver, and each second she held that eye contact was a direct challenge to the bully's reign. Some whispered bets on how long she would last before backing down. Others, more observant, began to notice there was something different about her. The way she measured the space, how her feet were firmly planted, ready to move. The bully stepped even closer, closing the gap until he could almost feel her breath. "Gonna just stand there staring at me, princess?" he taunted, with a half-smile hiding the start of irritation. From the watchtower above, a guard leaned forward for a better look, not to stop it, but because he knew this had the scent of a show, and of blood. No official record revealed much about her. On paper, only a name, an age, and a crime too small for someone with that look. But in the city's shadows there were whispers, stories of confrontations in dark alleys, of armed men hitting the ground before they even realized what had happened. Rumors of intense training, not in common gyms but in places where every move was taught to kill. Inside the prison, few knew these stories, but one older inmate who'd been through other prisons looked at her and felt a chill. He recognized the way she held her center of gravity, how her shoulders were never exposed. It was the stance of someone who had been surrounded before and survived. To the rest of the inmates, she was just the new one. To the bully, an easy target to reassert his dominance. But to those who recognized the signs, she was a live stick of dynamite, waiting for the right moment to explode. The sun beat down on the yard, reflecting off the cracked concrete and heating the air as if the place itself wanted to witness the event. The circle of inmates was already closed, a human wall of eager faces, hungry for violence. Nobody wanted to miss the chance to see the fall of one, or maybe two, names that would go down in prison history. The bully stepped back, not out of respect, but to give everyone a good view of what he thought would be a quick massacre. He raised his hand and snapped his fingers, drawing the attention of those still chatting. "Showtime," he announced, like a ringmaster introducing his main act. She stood motionless, observing every detail, his distance, the angle of the light, the position of the spectators. Everything was calculated in silence, no words, no rushed movements. Only the wait for the exact moment when his arrogance would become his mistake. One inmate shouted, "I bet a week's worth of food he drops her in under a minute." The guard in the tower just crossed his arms. He wanted to see how this would play out too. The bully charged first, like a bull used to flattening anyone on the initial impact. The ground shook under his weight, the air filled with the heavy thud of boots on concrete. He threw a powerful punch, aimed straight at her face, convinced one strike would end it. But before his fist landed, she turned her body slightly, slipping past the blow with the ease of someone who had done it hundreds of times. Her hand flashed like lightning, striking a precise point on the side of his arm, sapping the strength from his attack. Murmurs rippled through the circle. It wasn't common to see someone dodge him so easily. The bully gritted his teeth, more irritated than hurt. "Beginner's luck," he growled, stepping back to prepare his next strike. She didn't answer. She simply adjusted her stance, feet planted, hands relaxed, but ready. The crowd held its breath. Everyone could feel the fight had just changed tone, and the ending wouldn't be as predictable as the bully imagined. The second attack came faster and harder, a spinning blow that would have floored any average inmate. But she didn't just defend, she slipped inside his guard, as if the move had been anticipated from the start. A sharp crack echoed as her fist landed on a vital spot in his torso, forcing the air out of him in an instant. That was when everyone realized this wasn't simple self-defense. Her movements were too precise, too lethal. Those watching closely could see the fluid transition between different styles, the close-range power of Wing Chun, the direct force of Bajiquan, the shifting angles of Baguazhang. The circle, once confident in the bully's victory, was now split between shock and excitement. Murmurs spread like wildfire. "This isn't normal," whispered an inmate, torn between respect and fear. The bully, pride-wounded, stepped back, massaging the spot where she had struck. His eyes, once full of arrogance, now held something new, caution. His face twisted, not just from physical pain, but from the humiliation of being hit and hurt in front of everyone. His eyes lost their calculating coldness and burned with blind rage. He charged without technique, driven only by the urge to crush the woman who had dared to challenge him. Every blow he threw was heavier, less precise, wide swings, wild kicks, as if he wanted to drown her precision in sheer brutality. The sound of fists slamming into concrete and slicing through air mixed with the shouts and bets of the inmates around them. She, on the other hand, seemed even calmer. Every failed strike became an opening. She stepped back, pivoted, dodged by inches, and sometimes answered with quick, painful strikes that chipped away at his strength little by little. A veteran in the crowd shook his head. "It's over. He doesn't see it, but she's dismantling him piece by piece." From above, a guard allowed himself the faintest smile. He already knew who would walk away from that circle alive. The entire yard was in a trance. Every sound, every breath seemed amplified. The bully, panting and drenched in sweat, let out one last roar of rage and lunged with a straight punch, betting everything on a single attack that, in his mind, would end the fight. She waited until the very last moment. Her eyes didn't blink, her hands steady, her stance that of someone who had already won before the fight began. Just as his fist was about to reach her face, she stepped half a pace aside and, with a motion as quick as a whip crack, delivered a sharp blow to the base of his neck. The sound was muted, but the effect was devastating. His body froze for a split second before collapsing to the ground like dead weight. Silence swept through the prison. Not even the guards moved. The circle slowly opened, everyone instinctively stepping back, not out of fear of what she might do next, but out of respect for what she had already done. The fight had lasted only minutes, but its impact would linger in everyone's memory for a long time.